Hi sir, my name is Vaishnavi Gaikwad and I'm an FYBSc student. I would like to ask, when sometimes I do some things and my parents don't like it, of course they will scold me. So sometimes the matter goes too far and they hurt me. Like, and then I don't talk back to them. I've never done that till yet, so I feel like if I talk back now, it will hurt them. So what should I do? Like, if I talk back and if I don't talk back, it's like bottling up my feelings.
You must talk back, but not from an emotional center. Right? You must be 18, 20, 22 something, an adult now. You have all the rights to engage anybody in a conversation. But engaging in a conversation is not the same as reacting emotionally. The chances are that because they hurt you, so you will react. No, don't do that. It's very difficult to say which of these is worse. The two options that we usually exercise are: one, we suppress our feelings, we block our expression. That's the option very frequently chosen, and that's also the one you seem to be choosing. And following this particular option, there is the other one in which there is an explosion due to continued suppression. When you suppress your feelings and your instincts for too long, one day they will explode. And when that explosion comes, you know how the sight of an explosion looks. You only have debris all around. Things shattered and scattered. Sometimes not all the scattered things are visible to the eyes. They are all within the mind. And there is so much toot-foot. What has happened? Look at the faces, and you can know just by looking at the faces of the members of the family. There has been a civil war just an hour back. So, we all must, you all must rather, as young people, learn to engage your parents and your seniors and your teachers, right? In India, somehow, the culture has been of authority and silence. Authority from the senior side and silence from the junior side. And the direct blowback has been that a lot of the current generation is now becoming extremely disrespectful and disregardful, precisely because they have not been engaged, instead being asked to just shut up. And you cannot have a person shut up till eternity. So now you have people look at the kind of manners and the etiquette that they display. And then the parents are horrified. So are the teachers. The kids of this generation, they just know no respect. Look at how they misbehave with their elders. But then it was the responsibility of the elders to teach their kids or their students where behavior must come from. Not how they should behave, but from where they should behave. So I started my response by saying that you should not behave from your reactive emotional center. If you feel strongly like bursting out in a particular moment, that is just not the moment to open your mouth. Withdraw. Equally, you cannot stay withdrawn forever. So when you know that it's the right time, then speak up. At a time and place of your choice, respond. That's what they say in the military. When somebody attacks you, Obviously, he would be attacking you at a time and at a place where you are weak. That is not the time to engage the enemy. Of course, I am not saying that parents or teachers are enemies. Just, raising a very broad and loose analogy. So you do not just react then and there, though you'll be feeling very angry, right? And an army truck was going and it has been ambushed. But hey, this is not the point to engage them. Engage them as little as possible and just save your response for a better time. Because at that moment you will be afraid, you will be angry, you will be hurt from your feeling of being offended. Very hurtful words will arise. And the mind is a strange thing. It remembers all the nonsense. 2 hours of a hurtful conversation will be remembered over 2 decades of a relationship. That's how the ego operates. 2 decades of mother-daughter relationship, the ego will choose to just keep aside. And it will repeat to itself those 2 hours, not even 2 hours, it does not last that long usually. 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes of bombardment. And every single word, hurt, abuse will be not only remembered but magnified. Your mother said something in 2 words. The memory will remember it as 2 sentences. Even casual glances will be remembered as weapons in sarcasm. She was not just looking at me. She was using her eyes as weapons. There was so much sarcasm and taunt in the way she glanced at me. And that's all the work of the ego, right? So do engage your parents. Figure out what is really happening and then talk to them. It's an art. It's an art. When you read the old wisdom stories belonging to the sages or the gurus or the Buddha, often you come across something very curious. The student comes up and asks a question, and the teacher does not respond at all. Sometimes the teacher responds after an entire year. He waits for the right conditions to develop. He knows that any explanation at this moment will be futile. And then after 1 year he says, now this is the answer to the question you had then asked. The teacher is hardly ever seen in a hurry to provide explanations, because if you are a real teacher, a teacher of life, it is not your job merely to give explanations. You want to take the student to a solution, not merely explain it, but actually solve it. And that requires the right time and the right conditions. The student must be ready to listen. If the listening is closed, what's the point in speaking so much? And when 2 people are engaged in heated arguments, a de facto quarreling, believe me, neither of them is listening. And if that fellow is not listening, why are you speaking so much to him? You are speaking so much. You are speaking beyond what is needed to be spoken. And not a word is reaching that fellow. And even if something is reaching that fellow, his receptors are totally distorting it. Because he's receiving it through his internal filters. And the memory is selectively magnifying and selectively deleting the chosen parts. Some part is blown up and some part is chosen not to be remembered at all. I'll give you an example. I would have spoken here like for 15-20 minutes now. If all of us are asked to pull out a sheet of paper and write down what I have just spoken, just the salient points, let's say, sum up what has been said in 10 points each, everyone, you'll find quite a lot of divergence. Your 10 points will be at a significant variance from what she writes or from what he writes. How is it possible? The speaker is one. He has not said 10 different things to 10 different people. And yet we have heard the speaker differently, all of us. There would be obviously some overlap, but also a lot of variance. That's how we are. So wait for the other person to be in the right frame of mind before you can say something. These two things, if you can get rid of, and that applies to everybody, not just to you as a person. I'm not. It's a general answer. Reactiveness and emotionality. And I'm stressing more on that, seeing that I'm speaking to a girl, to a woman. The way Prakriti, physical nature, has made the two genders, and then later on the way we are conditioned by the society and the education and the various influences, girls turn out to be more emotional and more reactive. And that's a serious handicap they face in life. The problem that I face when I address this issue is that many women take their emotionality as their strength, whereas it is not. It is something very untamed that arises from the body, the physicality, the chemicals, the hormones, and one ought to understand it and stay at a safe distance from it. I'm not saying you must suppress your emotions. I'm saying you must understand your emotions. And to understand your emotions, there has to be a certain detachment. You must be able to see where your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions are coming from. If you'll not be able to see that, in spite of all the liberalism and all feminism, life can still be very hard on one particular gender. Unfortunately, we have come far from days of open and socially accepted oppression. But still, the scales are not even. They are tilted in favor of one gender and against one particular gender. I do not want girls to suffer. And the one who causes them to suffer is both outside of them and inside them. Outside of them are the blind forces of patriarchy and body identification and materialism and all that. And inside of the woman, the forces of her physicality, they are the ones that cause her to suffer. Those forces are present within men as well. When I'll speak to men, I address that. But right now, since I'm speaking to a woman, it becomes very important. Do not locate your enemy just outside of yourself. Probably a bigger enemy is lurking within. And that enemy is your own emotions, your own tendency to quickly react. And a lot of that has to do with insecurity as well. Because we do not educate and raise our girls well and wisely enough. So they are left feeling helpless, powerless, and therefore insecure. And when you are insecure, then you will be even more emotional and even aggressive. When you are afraid within, then you become violent in many ways, explicit and implicit. Do not let all that happen to you. Life is too valuable to be wasted away in periods of emotional trauma and neurosis and fragmented mind. Something is saying this is right, one part is saying I love my parents, one part is saying no, they offend me, I have to do something about it. One part is saying family is important, the other one says career is important, and all that is quite a lot of torture to handle. Do not let that happen. That's the reason why wisdom literature is essential and more important for women than for men. Because they are the ones who stand to lose more, who are more often than not the targets of aggression. Therefore, they are the ones who must have more centered minds. Make sure you do not get lost in the material and consumerist forces, and that you pay adequate attention to setting your mind right. Sort it out and keep it centered.